Hello and welcome to BeadsJar. My name's Billy and today our project is this Fit for a Queen fabulous Swarovski Pearl 3-strand necklace. Okay, so we're going to make the necklace which I've called Fit for a Queen. So the components we're going to use, we've got some size 8 Delica beads, we've got our 7-strand cable, 4mm pearls, 6mm pearls, 8mm pearls. We'll be using our crimps and also a 3 multi-strand slider fastener. The tools that we'll require are a pair of side cutters and a pair of flat nose pliers. I've cut a rather generous 60cm length of wire just to give me enough to play with whilst I start the make. So I'm just going to firstly take a crimp bead and pop that onto the cable wire. Now you don't have to work at the very tip of your wire, allow yourself some space, that's why we've got a generous amount to start with. So I'm letting it fall down the wire a fair way, and then I'm going to take the fastener and I'm going to go through the first loop on the fastener. So I'm going to take my wire through there. And it's going to come out the other side. And then I'm going to take my wire back on itself, so I'm going backwards, and I'm going to go through the crimp bead. So we've gone crimp bead, fastener, back with the wire and through the crimp bead again. And then I'm going to hold the 2 tail ends of the wire so I can pull the crimp up to the fastener, because we want that nice and secure up there. So I'm just going to take that crimp all the way up next to the fastener here. To secure the crimp in place, you just take your flat nose pliers and you want to crush that flat. So I've just crushed that crimp bead, as you can see, and that's really nice and secure, it's not moving anywhere. Don't cut the tail end off, we're actually going to tuck this back into our beads. So the next lot of beads I'm going to put on are 10 of the seed beads. So my seed beads have gone on my wire and I'm just going to take them to the fastener. And this is why we don't take the tail end off, because it's actually going to tuck inside these seed beads. I'm going to use the top of the slider on the fastener as my reference, so I want that to be the top of my fastener. So this is going to be my shortest strand for my necklace. So this is going to have the 4mm pearls on, and it's going to be the shorter of all the 3 strands. So I've got my 10 seed beads on there, and then I'm going to start work with my 4mm. So we're going to decide on this length first for our necklace. So you've got a bit of threading to do with all these before we can move on to the next section. These are really beautiful beads to work with. Really, really nice quality, and you can make some fabulous projects with them. So we're now coming up to the end of our first strand. So this is the length that we're going to use, and this is going to be the shortest of the lengths in our design. So this is going to sit on the inside, despite the fact we've used the bottom fastener, because the others are going to go around and off to the side of it, so it sits beautifully. So now we've got the length that we want for the inside necklace. We're going to finish with the 10 seed beads like we started as well. So you're just going to pop your 10 seed beads onto your wire. And they're going to go to the beads that we've just threaded. So we've got the pearls and then the 10 seed beads on here, and then we're going to add our crimp bead. So pop your crimp bead onto your wire, and this time you're going to let it go all the way down to join the beads. So that's the crimp bead there, the little silver one, and then we're going to go back to our fastener, and you're going to make sure, and this is important, that we use the correlating side. So we want to do the same side we started. So this one here, this loop. And then we're going to go to the crimp bead and then back through the crimp bead, and also the first 10 seed beads. So the wire's gone up through the crimp bead, through the fastener, and then we want to make sure we pull this loop of wire as tight as we can. So I'm just bringing that back down all the way. So I'm just going to hold the thread with my pliers that's running through all the beads, and that way I can pull on the tail end to bring that loop nice and tight. And there is it attached to the fastener. Before you actually crush the crimp bead, use your side cutters, and you want to cut away the excess wire that's stuck out from the seed beads. And you'll notice, because I've not crushed the crimp, that's allowed for the wire to pop back into the seed beads, and that will avoid any scratchy ends. And then what we can do is use our pliers to crush that crimp bead flat, and that's finished that first strand for us onto the fastener. So we're next going to move on to our size 6 pearls for the strand on the outer side of the 4mm. I'm just going to move my 4mm out of the way for now, because we don't need any more of them. And then we're going to start on the 6mm. And to attach this one, we're doing the very same as we started with the 4mm strand. So your crimp bead goes onto your wire and then through, and we want this in the middle. So this is going to be the middle strand, so the middle loop on our fastener here. So through with the wire, back on it, back on itself, and through the crimp bead. So the crimp bead is going to go over both wires as close to the fastener as we can get it, and then we're going to crush that with our pliers. And there's our tail end again. And just as we'd started the 4mm, 10 seed beads are going to go on this strand as well. Okay, and now I'm going to start threading the 6mm. Okay, so I've come up to nearly finishing the lilac 6mm strand, and I'm going to do the same again with the 10 seed beads. But just to point out here, when you're choosing the length, we only want this to, it's got to sit against the 4mm all the way around. So I would say bring it up so that we've got one bead extra in line with the 4mm. So I'm going to take that extra one off and just have the 10 seed beads so that there's a nice distance between the 4 and the 6. Okay, so then we're going to go back to the 10 seed beads, and the fastener is going to be exactly the same. So I'm just showing you that more for length and how you choose how many beads to put on your next strand. So I'll just quickly attach this end and then we'll show you a full view of how this is now sitting before moving on to the final strand on the project. So I've just popped my seed beads on, and exactly the same, make sure you've got the same fastener as on the other side, so the same loop on the fastener, so the middle one. So you're going to go through and then back through the crimp bead and your first 10 seed beads all the way along, come out with the wire, and we're pulling that in nice and tight. Okay, just watch that fastener doesn't flip as you're pulling it in, and then like I say, we'll do a nice wide shot so you can see what I meant by the lengths. I'm just going to remove that wire before I crimp that bead in place. And then we're going to crush the crimp bead. And this is what you should now have. So just do that wider shot so you can see that it's sat exactly flush against the outside of the 4 mils before we start on the 8mm size pearls. Okay, so moving on to the 8 mils. I'm going to go up and through just as we have done for all the other strands, and straight back to our 10 seed beads to start the next strand. And then on to the 8mm pearl size for this one. So we're coming up to the end of this beautiful project. So I'm just adding the last few beads on. On this length. So I'm just going to take it a bit further than the 6mm, like we did when we were doing 6mm for over the 4. So we just want to go a little higher to give us that gap and distance we need, and we're going to add our 10 seed beads to finish here. So I'm literally just going to make sure it's sat all nice and tight, and it's a bit higher than the 6mm, so that's perfect. And then we're going to go to our 10 seed beads. Last check obviously before we put our crimp on, so that is looking really fabulous. They're such nice beads, the colours are really beautiful in them. So we go crimp bead and through our fastener, and then we go back through our crimp bead and seed beads here. And we're going to pull that all nice and tight. So pulling that in and down up to the fastener. Take the excess wire away with our cutters, and don't forget to crush our crimp bead here. And if I just remove these pearls for a second, and then you can see the full effect of this beautiful fit for a queen pearl necklace. We hope you've enjoyed the tutorial, and we look forward to seeing you next time. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, let us know if you've got a project in mind. Thank you, bye!